As you know, we have a series of events coming up, 4 of them all together, and the idea is to start off by sharing some information with each other, trying to get on a common level, a common basis for conversations about addiction. And then as we keep moving through this, we want to move more into asking questions of each other and small group discussions to see if by the time we get to the end, we can have discerned whether or not the Spirit is calling us to do something in this area of addiction, and if so, what is it, and how will we begin it? That's the idea. Okay, so we're going to sort of start with information and hopefully move to transformation as we work our way through this. So today, what we have planned to do is to talk about quite a lot of different things. So I'm going to move through them fairly quickly. We're going to talk about the nature of the problem in our community with addiction. We're going to talk a little bit about how does addiction begin. We're going to talk about stereotyping and addiction, the consequences of addiction, and families and children. That's 5 things. So even with just a few minutes each, you see, it would be, we're going to have to move through this in order to get all of that covered. Now, we have some materials, and I think additional materials will become available as we move through today, but there are some materials over on the table over there. These are about Racing for Recovery. It's an organization that's been very effective with some folks, so I encourage you to pick these up and look at them, and other materials will become available as we keep going. Okay, so let me begin. I'm going to do the first part, but it's not all me. So don't worry, okay? Because those of you who know me know once I get yakking on, I'm pretty hard to stop. So, here's a picture. I realize that it's hard to read and difficult, but it is specifically about drug use in Toledo. And it's dated, it covers a period from June of 2013 to January of 2014. And what it shows you is this. I know it's hard to read, but these 2 bars at the top, see this bar and this bar? This is to do with folks who self-identify as addicts, and it's men and women. In other words, it's pretty much 50-50. You see the bars are almost the same length here. Now, the N for this study, if you're a statistician, is small because you have to actually find people who are willing to say to you, yes, I'm an addict, yes, I engage in these illegal behaviors, and some folks are pretty cautious about that in case you turn out to be a cop and you arrest them. So, but nonetheless, men and women, 50-50. This is age groups here, these orange bars. You can see it covers all age groups, from people less than 20, people more than 60. There are 2 spikes, folks in their 20s, but then also folks in their 50s are the 2 big groups. There's a reason for that, too. And then this is educational level here in green. Less than high school graduate, college or associate's degree, bachelor's degree. You can see it looks like a kind of almost like a normal distribution type of thing. So all educational levels, particularly if you factor in the percentage of people who have bachelor's degrees in Toledo, which is shockingly small, you'll realize that that's pretty much covers everybody. Then this is income level here. Income's going from less than $11,000 a year. That's folks who are living in poverty are particularly affected. But it also covers people going up to, the median income and above $38,000 here in Toledo. And then at the bottom set of lines here, these are all different things that people say that they are addicted to. So you can see alcohol is top of the list, marijuana, crack cocaine, prescription opioids, heroin, and then it goes all the way down to prescription stimulants and so on and so forth. So that's right here in this city, in those numbers are for this town. That's for Toledo. I'm sorry? Yes, multiple responses for the drugs, and that's very important to notice because what we will discover is that using multiple different drugs at the same time turns out to be an especially risky business. I'll show you that in just a minute. So the top 5 things that were listed are these: alcohol, marijuana, crack cocaine, prescription opioids, and heroin. And I put the bottom 2 in blue, especially because In this report, again from June 2013 to January 2014, specifically about Toledo, this is specifically Toledo, heroin use is described as epidemic here, epidemic. More users addicted to heroin than crack cocaine. There's been an increase in heroin overdose deaths, which we've talked about a little bit, and some very distressing practices like using fentanyl to cut heroin. You know, fentanyl is nasty enough on its own. You certainly don't want to cut heroin with it. And so, the other sorts of things that are particularly, you see here, law enforcement report, increase in juvenile heroin use. So this is, you know, young people, more and more of them using heroin, more and more heroin overdoses, and so on. The Ohio Department of Health, now talking about the whole of Ohio, says heroin-related deaths continued to increase through 2013. They passed prescription opiates. Although prescription opiates remain a prominent contributor to many of the unintentional drug overdoses. It's one of the reasons why there was that big spike for people in their 50s. At least anecdotally, friends who are physicians tell me that as folks age, they may need more medicines because of issues to do with pain and things like that. They get prescribed prescription opiates, and then because they're on a fixed income, eventually they wind up really not being able to afford those anymore. But guess what? You can buy heroin out on the street for almost nothing. And so people move from taking the drugs that were prescribed to them to taking heroin in that age bracket. So there's a big surge. It's not just young people now, but it's also this other age demographic that's being hit especially hard. And then Liz asked about multiple drug use. You see, this is a major contributing factor. 2013, 57% of overdose deaths involved the use of more than one drug. So like a combination of heroin and alcohol, for example, that's very dangerous here. I've shown some of you this graph before. This is to do with the number of deaths and the death rate per 100,000 citizens in Ohio. So this is us. And it shows the date from 1999 to 2013, which, as you can see, is pretty much going straight up like that, which is really, it's just an extraordinary thing. 413% increase from 1999 to 2013. 413%. And, you know, I said several times that what really set me off on this was when I read that you're more likely to die of a drug overdose than you are in a traffic accident in Ohio. And I thought, that can't possibly be right. That's the most silly thing I've ever heard. But it's true. It's actually true. So that's the yellow line there is showing number of deaths from unintentional drug overdoses, and then the green one is deaths in traffic accidents. So you can see that they crossed right around 2006, 2007. And so one of the things that popped into my head, I mentioned this in church a week or so ago, I think nobody in their right mind would raise a child and not teach them about traffic safety. Right, you're always saying to your kids, don't run out into the road, don't do this, don't go charging out, chasing your ball when it rolls into the street, because you could get hit by a car and you don't want your child to die in a traffic accident. They're much more likely to die of a drug overdose in the state of Ohio than in a traffic accident. So what do we do about that when it comes to teaching and working with children, for example? So that's important, I think. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about how addiction comes about. Now, fortunately, I was able to talk with Randy Rouge, who knows a lot about molecular biology. He's a professor at UTMC. And he talked me out of doing this highly detailed thing on neurochemistry that I really wanted to do, to talk you all. He said, yeah, Julian, don't do that, don't do that. So Randy came up with some thoughts that were very, very helpful. Figuring out how addiction works, and it's mostly to do with neurochemistry, is actually extremely complicated, but really fascinating. It's really fascinating. So I just want to do a little bit on this, and if it's not your thing, just finish eating, okay? But if it is your thing, you think, why is it that this person can have a glass of wine and go to bed at night and they're perfectly fine? This person has a glass of wine, and 2 days later they're on a massive bender somewhere, completely drunk and ruined. What's the difference? Why is it? Is it that this person is weak-willed? No, it's not. It's got nothing to do with that at all. So I just want to run through just a little bit about this, how this works. So this is a picture of your brain. I promise not to follow with the hokey one that says this is your brain on drugs. Okay. So the important thing to know about your brain is that different parts of your brain are responsible primarily for different things, like your prefrontal cortex and your frontal cortex are, among other things, to do with planning and judgment. Down here at the bottom, the amygdala is to do with emotions and conditioned responses and effects. And then the bit in the middle, this is the part that has lots of funny names and they're all complicated here. Your nucleus accumbens, the medial forebrain bundle, and the ventral tegmental area. Those are all things that are to do with reward. So that turns out that's very important. Let me just summarize that here. So you have an amygdala, and it helps assess whether or not an experience is pleasurable. So if you pick up some chocolate and you eat it, how do you know whether you like chocolate or not? Your amygdala is going to assess that here. But then your hippocampus is going to record it. So now you know when you see chocolate that you like it. You didn't know before because you never tried it. But you tried it once. Now your hippocampus records that. And so now when you see some chocolate, it stimulates this area of the brain and says, oh, you want that. You want that because you like it. And then the frontal region coordinates some processes and ultimately controls behavior. So a signal to your frontal cortex will say, reach out and pick up that chocolate and put it in your mouth. And before you know it, you did it. You did it. But what's supposed to happen is that part of the brain with these complicated names, the ventral tegmental area, the nucleus accumbens, they act like a control mechanism. They're like a rheostat, or like a thermostat on your central heating. They sense, the way that works. It senses if it's too hot in the room and it turns it down. Senses if it's too cold, turns it up. This is what's supposed to control whether or not you have one chocolate or 300 chocolates. It's supposed to regulate that. And it tells the other parts of your brain, yeah, the first chocolate was nice, but now I've had 10 of them, I'm starting to feel sick. It's supposed to do that, okay? So when all of this is working fine, you try chocolate, you like it, next week you see a chocolate, memory says, oh, you like that, so you pick it up and you eat it, but you don't eat 300 of them because part of the control system says, yeah, just stop now or you're going to get sick. You're going to start reacting badly. Now, what happens when you start taking drugs like heroin, for example, I'm using that as the example, although all drugs of abuse have certain features in common, they cause that regulatory system to get a whole flood of messages. And that flood of messages really, really troubles and makes difficult the reward system here. And this is particularly to do with how one of the messengers in your brain, dopamine, how that works in stimulating neurons in your reward pathway. I'm going to show you in a picture, and I hope it will be clear in a minute. What happens when heroin enters the brain from the blood? I showed you the structure of heroin during a sermon a little while ago. It's the only place I know where you can go and hear a sermon and see chemical structures shown on the board. If you remember, I said lots of people will say, what does the devil look like? And they'll show you pictures of somebody with horns and a tail. And I said, no, the devil looks like this. And I showed you a picture of heroin. And in a heroin molecule, all you have to do is strip off a couple of acetyl groups, put on OH groups, and you have morphine. They're very closely related to each other. So in your brain, that hydrolysis reaction happens, and heroin is converted to morphine, and it activates certain opiate receptors in the reward pathway. Now, you have opiate receptors in your brain anyway, because there are lots of natural opiates that are just part of your everyday normal life. So what happens then is these receptors cause a decrease in the release of another neurochemical that's called GABA. I'll show you a picture in a minute, and I hope it will make sense. And that suppresses the reward pathway by binding to receptors on other nerves and decreases the release of dopamine. It looks like this. There's two pictures here, on the left and on the right. On the left is a brain as it usually is. So here's what happens. So a signal comes down here, gets down to here, from this little place here, dopamine is released and it travels across the synaptic cleft and it binds to a receptor down here. And that's how a signal in your brain is transmitted from one place to another by these little messenger molecules here called dopamine. Now, when the signal is supposed to be over, so, a signal happens and it's supposed to have a beginning and it's supposed to have an end. The way that it ends is because over here is a control pathway where this molecule called GABA is released from a nerve terminal in the nucleus accumbens, and it comes over and binds here and turns this off. It's like an off switch. And so the off switch turns it off. Any residual dopamine is transported back and reabsorbed, and the signal is over. Done. That's what's supposed to happen. Now, on the right is what happens if you take heroin. Here's heroin, these little yellow blobs. They get hydrolyzed into morphine. Morphine comes along and binds to one of the mu opiate receptors here, and that messes up this, which is the off switch, remember. So the off switch becomes broken. And so what happens here is dopamine is pouring out from here, and the off switch is broken. And it just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming. And this signal, let's suppose it's a signal that says, you really like this. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. Like the Energizer Bunny, that's exactly right. That's what happens. And so when this happens, that does all sorts of things to the rest of the system. The rest of the system starts thinking something's wrong here, something's broken. And it might start, say, turn on a gene that you happen to have that expresses proteins that are supposed to clean all that extra stuff up. But because that's not really your brain on a normal day, this is your brain on a day with heroin, all of those expressed molecules wind up lurking around in your brain. Some of these proteins that can be expressed in your brain, they can have half-lives of years. So that means you take heroin one day, all of this happens, you get this huge signal that makes you feel good for a while. Your brain starts to compensate for it, and the compensatory factors don't go away by the next day. They stay there on and on and on and on. And that's one of the reasons why people will often sort of fall off the wagon 4 or 5 years down the road, because those things are still there in your brain. Okay, so what we saw was when those GABA secretions are reduced, more dopamine's secreted, the reward pathway is stimulated, you get feelings of euphoria. That's the high associated with heroin use, and repeated exposure to opioids leads to tolerance, which is the need to take higher and higher doses to achieve the same effect. And that's because your body is trying to compensate, right? And tolerance occurs. The brain cells that have opioid receptors become less and less responsive, so you need more and more of the drug to get the same effect. And with chronic use, what happens is eventually your brain becomes so used to this that it functions more or less normally when you're taking drugs, and then when you stop, abnormal functions start because your brain has learned to figure out ways around the problem here, and that's when dependence sets in here. So, prolonged use, then you get these complex, very long-lasting chemical changes in your brain. Very, very long-lasting. And that's the hallmark of addiction. It's done now. Those molecules are in your brain, and they're going to be there for months and months and months, maybe even years. It's done. There's no getting rid of it. So those changes, they don't reverse on stoppage. So as you can see, susceptibility goes on for months or years. Now, other drugs, like cocaine and heroin actually function kind of in opposite ways, but cocaine, alcohol, nicotine, all of these things, one way or another, affect these pathways in the brain that are associated with the reward system here. And these basic mechanisms, if you think of it in terms of changing the wiring of the brain, they have a lot in common with each other. The details are different, but the broad stroke is the same for all of those drugs here. Now, if you're actually interested in this, There is a great little paper, it's free on the internet, it's called The Addicted Brain. It's by Nestler and Malinka, who wrote what's probably one of the best textbooks, I think, on neuropharmacology that's available in the United States. So these guys really know what they're talking about. And they wrote this nice little article for Scientific American. And in Scientific American, it's laid out so mostly a kind of normal person like one of us who's not an expert could read this, with pictures and analogies and things to help you think it through. So it's very, very good, very helpful little article there. The last paragraph of the article says this. Did you see it? About 50% of the risk for drug addiction is genetic, in the opinion of these two folks who are experts in neuropharmacology. 50%. So this is not just a question of when you compare two individuals with each other that you say, oh, this person made a bad choice, this person... half of the decision here, the outcome is predicted based on a genetic basis. That's because, remember I said to you, that when your brain tries to compensate, what it does is it calls on some gene to initiate the synthesis of a protein, where the protein is supposed to fix the mess. Well, if your particular genome has a whole bunch of this gene that can express this protein, you're going to get a whole bunch of it, and if I don't have it, I might get none of it. So I didn't get to say where my gene set came from. I inherited it from my parents, and so did you. And you have it, whatever it is, you either have these genes or you don't have these genes. It will depend upon your individual circumstance, and that's kind of programmed into you here. Some of us, in other words, have a much higher susceptibility to addiction than others. And it's genetic. It's genetic. There's nothing you can do about that. You don't get to pick your genes. You really don't. Okay, so that's the first couple of things that we wanted to talk about. I'm going to ask Mary Ellen if she'll be so kind as to come up and talk to us a little bit.
Okay, hello, I'm Not My Addiction. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being here and being interested in this topic that touches all of us, whether we realize it or not. My piece here is to talk about stereotyping and stigma. We all stereotype, whether we know it or not. I'll give you an example of a stereotype that came up at a Bible study last Wednesday. British people like kidney pie. That's a stereotype. And it's true partially, but the stereotype is a broad overview and a very simplification of an idea. I'd like to do a couple little quick exercises with you about stereotyping. The first thing I'd like you to do is just take a breath, close your eyes, and I'd like to ask you, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of an addict, any addict? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Don't use your filter.
Drug use.
Okay. Somebody else?
Crack marks.
Crack marks, good.
Out of control.
Out of control, okay.
Rude behavior.
Okay. What's that?
Rude behavior.
Rude behavior.
Anger.
Anger.
Bitterness.
Bitterness.
Crime.
Crying.
Crime.
Crime. Very good, yes.
Melancholy.
Melancholy? Yes.
Paranoia.
Paranoia.
Fear.
Miss Audrey?
I'm going to say a person that has African Negroid blood. That's who I cannot be, have not been around Anglo-Saxon nor Caucasians as any type of addict. That's why I'm telling you that's what I visualize, an African Negroid person.
Okay, so you visualize this as a class or racial issue? A lot do. A lot do. Anybody else?
Shame.
Shame?
Depression.
Depression. Very good.
Alone.
Alone. Very much so. There are just some other stereotypes that come up when we think about someone who's using drugs, crackhead, junkie. We think of them as homeless. We think of them as dirty. Uneducated, does that come to mind? Yeah. I'm going to share a little bit. I'm a little bit nervous about this because I'm a recovering addict, and I don't usually share with people who are not addicts themselves. I don't usually share with my church family, so this is a little strange for me. But I am going to share a little bit about where I've been and where the disease of addiction has taken me. I was raised in West Toledo to a college-educated family. My father was a research chemist. He was a very brilliant man. We were given great educations. We went to private schools, parochial schools. We were given great opportunities as kids. What else can I tell you? When I was growing up, the idea was not, will you go to college? The idea was, you will go to college. It was just a given. There, like Julian said, though, there was alcoholism in my home. My mother was alcoholic, and Mom was a stay-at-home mom and a stay-at-home drinker. So it was in the genes. When I was 12, there was some chaos that went on in my home. And I started having panic attacks. I had never had a panic attack before, but I started having them at 12. My parents took me to the doctor. The doctor gave me a benzodiazepine, which is a tranquilizer, and that was my introduction to drugs. I don't blame the doctor. This was 1962. Not a lot was known at that time, but that amygdala that Julian talked about, that was the first time in my life I felt peace. And I felt comfortable in my own skin, and it worked. And it continued to work for years until it turned against me. When I was 20, I had surgery, and I was introduced to opiates, like those two. They did the same thing for me, and I was not drug-free for many, many, many years. You know, when I was a little girl growing up, what I imagined was, like every little girl wants, you know, a house in the suburbs and with a white picket fence and a husband and children and nice little career. And I got all those things. And I lost all those things due to the disease of addiction. In 1985, I did get married. I had children. In 1985, I went through treatment. What followed was, addiction is an equal opportunity destroyer. It doesn't care who you are, where you come from. It is a destroyer. It destroyed my family. It destroyed my relationship with everybody, really. I lost my house in the suburbs. I lost custody of my children. I lost my marriage. I even lost my church because I was rejected by my church family, which was really a difficult struggle. But I did get clean, and I stayed clean for a number of years. I got the great idea to go to nursing school. I was an X-ray technologist, so I thought I'd go to nursing school so I could further my career, and I did. But the disease is patient, and it waits for no one. It just is patient. And I found myself working around narcotics as a nurse, and that's not a good place for a drug addict to be. Eventually, I did relapse. In 2001, I relapsed. So I was clean for a number of years, working a program, going to meetings, doing everything I was supposed to do, but not realizing the seriousness of addiction. And when that happened, I had experienced a series of personal losses, And just one day I was passing out Vicodin to one of my patients, and it seemed like a good idea to get some relief. And of course, we know that never works. After that, I couldn't stop. Eventually, once again, it took me to a bottom. I self-reported because I never wanted to be in that position again. So I told on myself, that I had been stealing drugs. And I was prosecuted and I went to prison. That was an eye-opener for a woman like me, let me tell you. But it was okay because I knew I was clean. I knew I was on the right track. And the only thing that mattered to me in my life was staying clean, just for one more day. And, when you hit a bottom, you truly go to hell. I'm not afraid of hell because I've been there, and I've been there twice. So I'm really not afraid of dying or afraid of going to hell. I know what it feels like. So I've been clean ever since. It's been 11 and a half years now. When I found this church, my service is important. It's important to all recovering people, and I think it's, as I've learned, it's important to all Christians. So, of course, I looked for a church where there was service. And what I imagined was I like this church. I can get a floppy straw hat and maybe a little flower on it, pick a few weeds, and that's how I imagined my service work here at the University Church, maybe collecting eggs outside. This is not what I plan to do, but God has other plans for us. Well, while we're busy making plans, right? This is the last thing I expected to be doing at my church family. But, when you get clean, you understand that your life is no longer your own. This life does not belong to me. I really should not be here. And the amounts of drugs that I consumed and the risky behaviors, there's a reason for me to be alive. And it's certainly not my own actions. There is a reason, and if this will help someone break down your stereotype. I mean, really. Do I look like a drug addict? Yes, I do. This is what we look like. This is what we look like. And we are everywhere. I'm a productive member of society. I have a job. I have good relationships with my children now, and hopefully other people. But we have to get over the idea that drug addicts come from a certain group, or that saying I'm a drug addict is a dirty word. It's not. It's not. I have a disease that I'm recovering from, and thank God we can recover from it. So I'm going to ask you to do a little inner work yourself. Check yourself. How do you feel about all of this? I can say to you, I have diabetes. When I say I have diabetes, how does that make you feel? What do you think about that? Any feelings about that? Okay. When I say I'm a drug addict, how does that make you feel? Any feelings about that? And if you have disparate feelings between the two of those, that's a place you can help. That's a place you can come together, check yourself, learn some things, become educated about the disease of addiction, and make one little difference in somebody's world. We need to be a welcoming community. That's what I told you, Lynn. That's one thing we can do, is be open and welcoming, because addicts need a lot of support, especially when we're newly recovering. We are like a raw nerve and need, the last thing we need is shame. That is the last thing we need, because we feel so much of that ourselves. So this is just another overview of people who do drugs. Drug use is a powerful source of stigma and discrimination. How do you feel about it? The stigma attached to drug use may be reinforced by the fact that it's illegal and covert. And it is, none of us use without breaking the law. None of us use without breaking the law. And then there's also stereotypes about junkies. There's so many prescription addicts that I know that, it's hard. And it was hard for me to see myself that way, so I can imagine how hard it is for you. Is alcohol a drug? Certainly, my brain doesn't know whether I'm drinking a bottle of Budweiser or whether I'm shooting something in my vein. My brain just doesn't know the difference. So alcohol is very much a drug. Stigma associated with addiction are great challenges to recovery. They truly are. And like I said, this is one way that you can help. Next, I'd like to present a very powerful video that someone shared with us that really brings it home and really shows the pain involved with loving an addict, the pain involved with being an addict, and see for yourself. This is very realistic.
She had a smile that would light up her room. She had a passion for basketball. Then she picked up golf, and she was a natural with that. She really enjoyed the game.
The one thing that caught us truly off guard going towards the end is we didn't realize how badly she felt about herself. Look at the pictures. Why would we think she had a self-esteem problem? But the fact of the matter is that was one of the major engines that drove her to areas where she really didn't need to go, didn't have to go.
My spoons started to disappear. And I'm not talking, 1 or 2. It'd be like, okay, I have like 3 spoons left.
And I remember I had $150 some in my wallet. I had, when I went to pay that, I had $75. And of course she started crying. And yes, I came down. Yes, I took her credit card. Yes, I used it.
And I remember going to court the next day and beautiful Marin, and then bringing her in, shackles on her ankles, in these prison uniform. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how did we get here? I was just numb.
She needed the money to pay some people back, and she needed the money to trade the gas for the heroin.
If you would have asked us, what do you know about heroin? I would have said a street drug, a junkie's drug. Not something that you hear about on TV. It's not something that you would find in a community like Pickerington or any suburb. I mean, every day was that we have to keep her alive, we have to save her. If she said she was going to a meeting, I would follow ahead of time and sit in the parking lot and see her walk in, because I could breathe again, because she showed up. We got one more day. She's sober one more day. She never even had a car, but she still found a way to get it because they would just bring it to the house when we were sleeping.
I remember walking into the apartment, And I've never heard such a horrendous scream in all my life. When I went out and walked to that bathroom door and saw him there holding my daughter, I knew immediately she passed away.
I know she really wanted to make it. And I know she doesn't want to see any other family go through what we have gone through, and I know she wants me to talk about it. And I found her journal that I bought for her. In her journal, she wrote a goodbye letter to heroin. Dear heroin, before I met you, I was full of life, at least from what I thought. But then problems started coming my way that gave me an excuse to meet you. It was like love at first sight. Not only did you do things for me, but boy did I do things for you. I lied to my family, friends, and even more importantly, I lied to myself. I would steal and cheat for you. I would risk my freedom and my life for you. But our relationship went to hell when the first and last time you really almost took me away forever. You had me for 7 minutes. I won this battle, and I will never have to suffer again. Sincerely, your worst enemy, Mary Riggs. She still went back to it. That it was still because of the grip it had on her.
Do I miss her every day? Oh, sure.
We can't bring her back, and we can't go back. But if we can help other people by telling our story, then that's what we have to do.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. We've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
Yeah. So I just want to say that recovery is possible. People do recover from heroin addiction or any other disease of addiction. We will have some resources available when we gather those together to hand out. Many don't make it. Many don't make it. And I'm so grateful that we're talking about this. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. So it's a very sad story here, and I have a friend who wants to share with you one that is a story that I think is going in a different direction. That I pray every day will have a happier ending. My friend Nick, come on up, Nick. That's great. If you just stand there.
I know. How's everyone doing this evening? Or afternoon, rather, I suppose. I'm sorry. I'm already ahead of myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Reno. I'm a member here at the University Church. I'm also a husband, a brother, a son, a friend, an employee, an activist, a lover, a fighter, and I am also the survivor of polysubstance abuse. Growing up was a very normal child, or so I thought. I enjoyed doing what kids do into my teenage years. You know. I enjoyed spending time swimming, playing, you know, whatever it is kids like to do. At a very early age in my teenage years, I realized I had an emotional problem. I had a disconnect. My levels of anxiety from the age of 13 and on were debilitating. I struggled waking up in the morning and eating. I struggled doing everyday activities that normal people go through that I shouldn't have struggled with, that I felt at least I shouldn't have struggled with. In my latter teen years, when I was in high school, I was a tennis player. I enjoyed, you know, just physical activity. I've always enjoyed swimming, running, tennis. I played indoor soccer. Those were all things that helped mold who I am. When I was 17, while I was playing tennis, I hurt my back. And I went to see a doctor, and this doctor prescribed me opioid pain medication. And this was right around the time I was transitioning from high school into college. And I remember the very first time I took that medication. It was a very intimate experience for me. I went from being just a nervous, jittery child to feeling comfort. I felt as if I could escape my mind for a while and enjoy the world outside of my head. And that's where my dependence on chemicals kind of began. I went on using opiates that entire summer into the beginning of my college career. I eventually told my parents what I was struggling with. My parents knew I was on opioid pain medication, however. This was kind of before the major epidemic that Toledo had. This was before pain medication was regulated as tightly as it was. And at 17, or 18 rather, I'm sorry, I was receiving more pain medication than someone dying of cancer. I sought help from my parents. I told them how bad the dependence was. I didn't realize until I started to wake up, not only feeling physically ill, but mentally, the anxiety and the emotional stress that I felt prior to my use was exacerbated 100-fold. And as Julian stated, that's where tolerance comes in, and that's where dependence comes in. Likewise, as Mary Ellen said, it is your own personal hell. It is the most painful thing I've ever gone through, and it's the most painful thing I will ever go through. Without a doubt. So I, at that point, became the youngest citizen of Toledo to be in a methadone clinic. I was 18. That has since changed now, obviously, because of the sheer numbers of addicts we deal with in Toledo and Ohio today. And from that point forward, I struggled. I struggled on and off opioids, prescription, and heroin. And I was also introduced to crack cocaine and benzodiazepines as well. At that point, I was using the three consistently, daily. And as the years went on, I found myself in college for the 6th year. I pulled out every last little bit of grant money and loan money that I was given to help support myself during college, and I put it all in my arm and in my nose. And that was a very hard realization to wake up to every day. My last memory of college is sitting in the bathroom at UT smoking crack. Until today, that is still very painful for me. Very close to that same time, my parents had enough. They cared about me very much, but they could no longer take the emotional turmoil that it put on them to see me go through that. So I was kicked out of my house, and I was left homeless. And I was brought in by some very special friends of mine who took me in, they loved me, they nurtured me, they comforted me, they gave me hope, they gave me wisdom. And with the help of them, I got clean for the very last time I would need to get clean, and it was on March 5th, 2012. The most beautiful part of the experience for me was being left as a shell of a person. Becoming a drug addict, you shed every bit of human condition that you have. You lose everything. You lose your personality. You lose your interest. You lose everything. It's just plain and simple. You lose. And when I got clean, I was searching for something. I was searching for something to fill that emotional void. I was searching for something that I could use to escape negative thought process. And I discovered an old guitar that this friend who brought me in had let me use. And I sat there and I played it, and I played it, and I played it. And I told myself, this is what I want to do. I mean, this is what I want to dedicate my time to doing. This makes me feel good. This allows me to not escape, this allows me to integrate. And I've been a musician ever since. I do still struggle today, until today rather. Those thoughts and feelings that I told you I had prior to my addiction have come back. They have resurfaced, which happened fairly quickly after my recovery. The only issue is that they become much more exacerbated because of my substance abuse. I struggle daily with manic episodes, whether happy, sad, or angry. I can never pinpoint when those will happen. It comes spur of the moment. And that has been something that's extremely hard for me to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And as addicts, it's those feelings that we are trying to escape in the first place. So that realization to me is just very horrifying. And it's the reason a lot of us fall off the wagon to 5, 10, 30 years down the road. And I'm not really too sure where I'm going with this. I was very excited to come in and share with everyone because I want to be part of the solution to the stigma. Today I have a job. I work 40, 50 hours a week, on top of being a full-time husband to my wife and a friend to everyone in my community. And I enjoy today just being me. I enjoy being able to be free of chasing substance. It's been such an amazing thing for me to just enjoy waking up in the morning, having a bowl of cereal, driving my wife to work, coming home, practicing scales, practicing songs, and just being a normal human being. Nevertheless, as I stated, though, that is still very hard for me. I've never gone through formal recovery, I suppose you'd say. I didn't attend AA or NA. I didn't have anything against them. I just kind of wanted to go my own route and keep myself occupied with what I love, and it has thus far worked out. But nevertheless, there's a few things I wanted to kind of go over as far as what I have gained from this experience and what I've lost from this experience. Because it's kind of odd for me. Some of the mental changes I've overgone in the last 7-8 years. Prior to my drug use, as I said, I was a very nervous person. Socially, I was quite inept. It was hard for me to make friends. It was hard for me to understand normal social cues that are vital to creating and maintaining a relationship, with anyone, friends, relatives. And I will say that one thing that I gained from substance abuse was an ability to be sociable. And that is very, very strange for me to think about. Also, one of the other kind of strange situations that I noticed when I first started using opiates, to be exact, my grades skyrocketed. In the initial first year, I felt as if I was actually able, as I said before, to escape my mind, and scholastically, I was through the roof. My grades went up unbelievably. The first 2 semesters that I was on opioids, I made the dean's list. So I struggle today with inattentiveness. Sorry. And that kind of destroys me from time to time. Knowing that there was something that helped me in some facets of life, but also destroyed me in others. I have never found, I haven't yet at least found a therapy or another substance that has allowed me to do just that again. And that is very painful. Some of the negative kind of long-term effects of my abuse, as I said, are the manic episodes. It's very hard for me to control my emotions in my relationship and in my occupation. That is a very rough situation. It's very hard for people to understand my thought processes and the ways I react to certain things. So I'm forced constantly to be very vocal about my problem. I have to apologize a lot, and I have to be hyper aware of everything around me constantly, and that's not a burden I would wish for my worst enemy. It's still hell. 3 years later. in that regard is showing no signs of getting better. And I've had to claw my way toward finding ways to deal with that. And that consumes a lot of my time. My mental issue consumes a lot of time that I could have to be productive in my personal studies, in my relationships, in my musical endeavors. And that's, as I said, something that I'm still getting over years later. And I suppose the thing that bothers me the most about that is I was told, after a year, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to be a whole new person. And in some aspects, they were correct. I am. Like I said, I still feel extreme joy. Just because I'm manic doesn't mean I'm always sad. I'm also very happy sometimes. A lot of the times. However, that's not easy either. I'm always analyzing my mood consistently. So even when I am very happy, I'm wondering why it is my brain is working in that manner, because I know very soon to come I'm going to peak down and experience the exact opposite. And as I said, I didn't quite experience that before. Addiction and I'm not quite sure if that is a consequence or if it's something I was dealing with during the addiction and I'm just now aware of. But it is my humble opinion that it's something that I exacerbated with chemicals. Nevertheless, I invite you folks to open your hearts to people like me, to addicts you see with signs on the streets. If you can only understand what these people are dealing with mentally, it would be much easier to be compassionate. It's a personal hell. It is not something that you can control. It is not something that you can put to the back of your mind. It is not something that you can just work out of your system. It is something that these people struggle with. It is a life and death disorder. And unless these people are able to find something that they can truly cling to and that they can own, whether it be a new lifestyle choice, whether it be a new hobby, whether it be a new career, we fail. We have to have something to cling to. And it makes that process much easier when we have people encouraging us and people loving us, rather than looking at us as the downtrodden. We need you people. In closing, I will say that the only reason I am where I am today is because folks such as yourself, my church community, my wife, my family, my friends, and I want to personally thank each and every one of you for coming in week and week out and saying hello to me and encouraging myself and my wife in our personal lives and endeavors. I will be forever grateful for that. So thank you so much.
So thank you both, Mary Ellen and Nick, for courageously standing up and sharing with us. I just have a few more things that I wanted to touch base on about, because we had a series of topics to talk about today, and after stereotyping, I wanted to talk about consequences of addiction. Nick has already talked about some of these things. There are, as you know, physical effects that happen to people. There's just a short list of some of them that happen: organ damage, hormone balance, and so on and so forth. Then there are neurological effects. Nick talked about this: depression, anxiety, mood swings, paranoia, all of those sorts of things. But there are, of course, legal consequences. We're hoping to, I'm working on trying to get one of our local judges to come in during one of our sessions and talk to us a little bit. Yeah.
I was seeing that this is a very extensive,
This one.
a very extensive topic. And,
Yes.
To squeeze it all in at once is kind of hard.
Yes.
But one of the major key points I left out is that center point in memory loss. I will be honest. A lot of times I cannot even remember what I had for breakfast at 8 p.m. I forget important dates and important times, which obviously if you are married or in any kind of occupation that's fast-paced,
Yeah.
it's a detriment.
Yes, it is.
So that I write everything down. You'll often see ink all over my hands or all over my arms.
Trying to cope with this, yes. Yes, thank you. Thanks for calling on me. Nick's right, because every single one of these topics we could talk about for weeks and weeks and weeks, like the whole legal consequences. Somebody gets caught doing something that's illegal, they get found guilty, they get put on probation, they have an arrest record, now they can't get a job. Their driver's license gets suspended, and now even if they did get a job, they can't get there anymore, so they lose the job. They get fined, even though they didn't have any money to begin with, because they spent it all on buying drugs. They get put in jail for a long period of time. And I've had quite an email correspondence recently with one of the counsellors who works in Marion Correctional Facility. And he confirmed something that you hear on the television. He said it's far easier to get heroin inside the correctional facility than it is outside. He sent me an email message last Saturday. He had 8 overdoses on Saturday. One died, and because they're inside the facility, of course, and people are checking, they caught the other 7, and they managed to save their lives. So they had 8 overdoses in one day inside. So, the longer you put somebody away, the worse it gets. It doesn't get better, it gets worse here. So, 47% of inmates serving federal prison sentences are doing so on drug offences. That's just a fact. 47%, half of all people doing federal prison sentences here. And then there are, of course, social consequences, which both Mary Ellen and Nick talked about: losing jobs, relationship changes, family and friends, and divorce or marriage disruption of relationships with a partner, all of those sorts of things, and then shame and guilt. We've heard about that, right? So all of those things. And I wanted to finish up just with remember the idea is not just somebody who's addicted that's affected. It then spreads out to everybody, right? So families and children, just as an example. We hear about children being born to a mom who's an addict, or being raised by addicted parents, exposure to addicted family members, lack of parental supervision, abuse, domestic violence, exposure to gangs. There could be neighborhood drug trade, neighborhood violence, access to weapons. The list goes on and on and on and on. And depending on your particular circumstance, one or more of these might be in play as a small child is being raised. And we all know, well, maybe we don't all know, but if you were to sit and look at the predictors of childhood success, you can get a list of the top 10 most important factors in raising a child. And the top 10 to be avoided, things like violence in the home is to be avoided in raising a child. Drug use in the home is one of the top 10 things that needs to be avoided if you want a child to come out the other side of being raised sort of successfully. And the standard of success is not especially high here. It means not getting arrested, not being locked up, maybe finishing school, things like that. So, our next session, we want to move on now and talk about things like prevention, intervention, some of these things we've heard mentioned here, like AA, NA, HA, those things, and signs, symptoms, and challenges, stages of change. As Nick has told us, things don't change overnight. He's still got things he's fighting on. What are the stages here? What are the resources and support structures that already exist in Toledo? One thing we definitely don't want to do is duplicate things that already work. That's just silly, right? If there are other things that are already working, maybe we can come alongside, help people with things that already work. So what's out there? And as I mentioned, if we can, we're working on this one judge, trying to talk her into coming to talk about drugs and the law a little bit, because there are all sorts of legal things where political advocacy could be very important. For example, in Toledo, we don't have a drug court. We are one of only 2 reasonably sized cities in the state of Ohio that doesn't have a drug court. Nearly all of the other major towns and cities have it. We don't have one. And why is that? Well, it turns out that there are pluses and minuses. There are some judges that say they're a terrible idea, some say they're a good idea, and so on and so forth. But we don't have one, so that's just a thing. There are also laws to do with treatment limits for providers with certain numbers of patients that cause all sorts of trouble for people who are addicted and need help quickly, not 6 months from now, but today. When they walk into, say, a police station and say, I'm in serious trouble here, you have a drug return program going on, here's my stuff, help me. And they say, sure, we can get you an appointment 6 months from now. Well, it doesn't work, right? So there are lots of things like that. So that's what's going to happen next. It's not this next week, they're every 2 weeks. I do hope you'll come back. And then as we get to the 3rd one and 4th one, we're going to be brainstorming ideas and seeing if the Spirit is calling us to be an agent here in this situation. And I think it would be a good idea if we said thank you to 2 extremely courageous people